How does one balance discipline and intuition? On one hand, to achieve great things, we must show up regardless of how we feel. We must maintain consistency over the long term, and most times we have to do things that we don't feel like doing to achieve the thing that we want most. And on the other side of that is our intuition. There's parts that are speaking, there's thoughts that are coming up, there's feelings, there's emotions, our body is communicating with us. And that's important as well. So how do we balance this? On one end, we're trying to reach a new mountaintop. We're going into the unknown. We're moving towards goals or moving towards a new version of ourselves. And that inherently is going to bring up certain feelings and emotions in parts of us. The unknown can be a scary place, and there are parts within us that tries to keep us in the known. The brain wants to keep us safe. It's its number one priority to keep us nourished, to keep us alive, to keep us safe. It's a mechanism that goes back to the earliest days of being a human being. And now, in modern times, as we're moving towards these new goals, that system is still there. So it's not abnormal that we're going to have these systems that are trying to keep us in the safety of the known. But the thing is your growth, your stretching, the things that you want exist outside of that known. They exist outside of that comfort zone. So there's going to be resistance. There's going to be thoughts. There's going to be doubts. There's going to be all these things coming up. So how do we balance that? And you may hear some people talking about, quieting it down or muting it out or pushing it away. And from my experience, using force with the parts that are coming up never ended in a positive outcome in the long term. Maybe sometimes I was able to forcefully push away those negative thoughts or the thoughts that didn't want to show up on those days or didn't want to do those things. But in the long term, they came back with more force. And this balance is more about understanding and creating a relationship with the parts of us that are coming up with these sensations, with these feelings, with these thoughts that want to keep us in bed or not show up for the training session or not take that risk. And this goes for all areas of life. This could be in our careers. This could be in a business that we want to start. This could be in physical fitness. And that's the lens that I'm going to be talking about this topic through physical fitness, my journey with it, and my current journey towards the Ironman, because that's where I have the most experience in this. And this is where I've learned the most about these various parts, because for all that I've achieved and all that I continue to show up for, I still have the voices. Just because on the outside it looks like I have a lot of discipline and I'm able to show up for training sessions and do these long endurance events, it doesn't mean that it gets easier or that I don't have the thoughts of staying in bed in the morning or skipping a training session. The difference for me now is I have a very clear vision. I have a very clear vision of what I want to achieve and how I want to go about that and who it's requiring me to be to achieve those things. And the other voices want to keep me in that known safety. They're trying to keep me in that place of comfort. But I understand that the things that I want to achieve most are requiring me to step out of my comfort zone and be a new version of myself. So again, this doesn't mean that I tune out my intuition. And it's more important now more than ever for me to maintain a relationship and communication with my body. I'm asking a lot of it. I'm putting in a lot of training volume, a lot of training intensity, and that's requiring me to fuel properly, to stretch properly, to do the restorative practices, and to listen to the signals of the body. But there's a balance, because parts of me like to use soreness and fatigue and how we feel in the morning as an excuse to not show up for that training session. Oh, we worked out for 7 days in a row. Let's just take today off. Let's just take it easy. We're sore. We're tired. Let's just hang in bed. Let's just take it easy this morning. And it's important because I have to discern whether is that voice a voice from my body saying we need this or we're going to get injured, or is it a part of me that just wants to take it easy, that wants to, just take the easy route and not stretch into that discomfort for that day. And one of the ways that I mitigate this and that I work with this is, I combine my training plan, I combine my planning, I combine my wearable technologies alongside of my intuition and my practices that allow me to continue to listen to my body. I think that wearable technology is great. I'm talking about like smartwatches and heart rate monitors. They're great. They can give us an insight into our heart rate, our respiration, various metrics of our body, and it can give us some really amazing feedback that really gives us some insights to where our body is, how ready we are for training, how fatigued we are, how much rest we need. And it's really amazing how many metrics we can get. But it's important not to just rely on. That's just one piece of the puzzle for me. And the other piece is continuing to feel into my body. So I look at the metrics, I look at the training that I'm scheduling and planning and showing up for. And then I'm constantly checking that in with my body and how my body is feeling. And I'm also strategically planning training. And again, this is through the lens of training, but this can be in life as well. I don't just continue to increase my intensity and my load and my volume of all that I'm doing in my training week in and week out. There is a progressive overload that I'm working, and each week is getting a little bit more leading up to the race, but it's in segments. I essentially do 4-week blocks where I ramp up in intensity, in volume, and then in that 4th week, it's called a deload week. So it's a chance for my body to recover, because through this process, it's a constant balance of increasing fitness while also increasing fatigue. And if I continue to increase fatigue without monitoring it or planning for it, then I can start to experience some really severe side effects that could even end up in injury, acute or long-term injuries, or flu-like symptoms and symptoms that the body literally begins to shut down. So the way that I approach this is I'm strategic. I put a lot of time and understanding into the nutrition, into the programming of the exercises so that my body is having the appropriate time to rest when needed. And putting that work in to the training plan, and the nutrition, it's a part of me saying to the other parts that want to take it easy, like, listen, we got this plan. I'm listening to you, but also we know we're doing this in the right way. So this is how I balance that. I'm listening to my body, but I'm learning how to discern against the voices that just want to stay in that comfort and they just want to be comfortable in that morning and don't want to show up for that training session, versus my body saying, hey, if you push me any further, I'm going to start pushing back. And I feel like this isn't a straight line. And this is something that we can experience in any area of life if we're pushing in our business, working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you'll hear some, influencers and public speakers talking about, 4 hours of sleep and putting in the hours 7 days a week, day in and day out. And listen, to achieve great things, to really set yourself apart and move into that 1%, it's going to require you to do things that most people won't do. To achieve great things, you have to do things that most people are not willing to do, but that doesn't mean it should be at the sacrifice of everything. It doesn't mean that you should sacrifice your body, your mind, and break apart your spirit, because at the end of the day, you need to make it to that finish line. So there's a balance here of showing up consistently, of putting in the late nights, of having the early mornings, but also continuing to tune in to what is working and what is not working for yourself, because that is an important piece of the puzzle. And I'm going to speak on balance, because we talk about, balance, right? We want to have balance, but I've heard people talk about this. I never fully understand it, but I'm starting to understand it a bit more at where I'm at in my journey, of where people talk about balance really not being a place for balance when we're really pushing towards the edges and really going into the highest levels of achievement and really going towards some of the biggest things in our life. And I kind of understand that now, because we're not always going to be balanced in all areas of our life. We're not always going to have time for every single area in life. There's a practice that I do every month called the Wheel of Life, a very popular practice, something I work with my clients on consistently. And essentially, you put in a circle all the different areas of your life that you can focus on. So it could be finances, physical fitness, nutrition, relationships, friendships, family, and you rate 1 to 10 how you feel, how aligned you were in that category. And the point being is that you can't be a 10 in all categories every single month. Each month's going to be different. But the question is, what's most important for you right now? Which areas do you want to be putting the most energy? What excites you the most right now? Because yes, it's important to have time with family and with friends, and all the areas have importance, but certain things are going to take more prevalence in certain seasons of life. Some seasons, you may not have as much time for family as you're working towards different goals. Other seasons, you may be with family more, or you may be working on your finances more. There's no right or wrong here, and it's not about being in this perfect equilibrium balance. You know, for me right now, the training for the Ironman is the biggest commitment in my life, and that is at the top of the list, and I have to say no to a lot of other things. I don't have the space right now to be going out on weekends, to have late nights, to do a lot of the things that, you know, go to concerts, whatever it may be. I'm consciously choosing something that has a higher priority for me right now. And it's not from a place of unhealthiness. It's not that I feel like I'm not living my life and I'm not happy and joyful. I am as happy as I've ever been. I'm at peace. I enjoy what I do on a consistent and daily basis. I just have to be very mindful in the choices that I make. I have to say no to a lot of things and a lot of decisions. And again, it's not no from a place of not living a fulfilling life. I just have a goal, I have a priority, I have a mission that I am on that is most important in my heart. And it's requiring me to be a version of myself that has to do these certain things. So that is why I have to have balance in a way that's at the top of the priority list. Yeah, I have a little bit less time with family, a little bit less time with friends, but that is this season. And then this season is going to shift. I'm going to get through this race. I'm still going to be in training, but then I'm going to shift and I'm going to evolve and I'm going to look at the next target, the next thing that I'm working towards, and I'm going to restructure and rebalance. So again, it's not about either or, it's about balancing the both. Yes, I am in a space where I'm required to have a lot of discipline around my training. And the same goes for if you run your own business. You know, there's no one telling you what to do. There's no one building your schedule. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of doing what you say you're going to do and doing the little things consistently over the long term. That's what it's going to take. And you have to consistently look at every single decision in life and ask yourself, is this aligned with my immediate goals? Is this aligned with who I want to become and what I'm working towards? Or is this holding me back? Or is this not supportive of what is most important for me right now? And again, this comes in seasons. This comes and goes. This is constantly evolving, and it's not this either or. And I can't stress it enough. It's not about pushing things away. It's not about fighting parts of ourselves. It's not about being at war with yourself, because you hear people they say, go to war with yourself. If you go to war with yourself, well, who loses? Because someone wins and someone loses. So you're a winner and a loser in that. And I promise you, it doesn't end up in a net positive. So we have to understand how to create a relationship with the voices that want to keep us in comfort, with the parts of us that are trying to keep us safe. We have to look at them from a positive frame, a positive perspective, and then allow that energy to move through. So for an example, like when I wake up in the morning, some mornings, man, those voices are loud and they're like, hey, let's not train today. We're tired, we're sore, we're fatigued. All these reasons and excuses come up, and I give them the space. I may meditate, I may sit outside, I may journal, whatever it is for that day. I give those voices and those parts of me space to let these things out, let them air out. And then afterwards, I acknowledge it and I say, okay, but this is why we have to show up today. And again, it's not have to show up from a place of self-hate or self-punishment, because I've tried that. It works short-term, not long-term. This is we have to show up because we have a vision and we understand fundamentally who we have to be in each moment to achieve what we want to achieve. Because we don't always rise to the level of our goals, but we will always fall to the levels of our standards. And I like to forward think and backwards plan. So I think forward of what do I want to achieve, and then I backwards plan what that version of me does on a daily consistent basis to achieve the thing I want to achieve. Because anyone can set grand goals. Anyone can look forward and set these big, massive goals in life. But goals without a plan are just wishes. So we have to have an action plan. And the action plan is most important. Understanding of that is, who do I have to be? What does the Joe of 6 months from now, what does he do every day? What's his training look like? What's his nutrition look like? What is his capacity to say no to things look like? What's his mindfulness looks like? What's his daily practices? I literally had to sit there and do a visioning of like, what is that version? Because we only know what it takes to get to the point we're at. So up until right now, I know what it's taken to get the results I've gotten so far. And in the future, I'm looking to get bigger results. I'm looking to get faster. I'm looking to go farther. So I understand that the version of me right now doesn't have the capacity to achieve the thing that I'm looking to achieve. Just like the version of me 6 months ago could not handle the training load that I'm taking part in right now. It just wouldn't have been possible. And how did I get from there to here? Well, I continued to embody practices, ways of being that allowed me to step my way there. You know, we can never look at someone else, we'll see it. There's plenty of motivational speakers and influencers talking about you just got to get up at 5 a.m. and they'll list you all these things, and cold bath and 6 hours of meditation, whatever it may be that they say, but they stepped their way there. Don't compare your day 10 to someone's day 10,000. Because I promise you, when we try to make a big shift and create all these changes, it doesn't stick. It's about incremental progress along the way. Again, me 6 months ago could not have been handling and would have not handled the training volume that I'm at now. Me of 2 years ago couldn't even fathom the version of me last year and what we achieved in the training volume we have for them. So again, I didn't just jump into this and say, oh, that's his training plan, I'm just going to jump in. No, I had to continue to refine, see what worked, see what didn't work. And, to get to this point now, I had to continue to refine, okay, these are the things that worked. These are the things that were rub points. These were points that, I had some area for growth, right? So I try not to be hard on myself. I don't talk negatively, and I try to be really mindful around my self-talk. But there's always areas that we can grow, we can refine, and we can get better. So it's about identifying those. I achieved some great things last year doing my first Ironman. The training was great, the finish was great, but it wasn't perfect. And I'm not saying perfect is a thing, but if we're not perfect, then there's areas that we can look at and we can grow and we can expand into. And that's what I continue to do. I look at the results I've gotten and say, great, what allowed me to get those great results? And also, what were areas that would allow me to get even better results? And then that opens up new doorways for me to explore, new avenues for me to grow, to expand, and to invite even more into my life. And this has been the journey. And it's very important because it can be confusing, because a lot of people talk about just, there's that vision and that feel of discipline being like very hard and pushing yourself and having a negative self-talk and pushing parts of yourself and force and grind. And I promise you that energy will burn you down and burn you out. This is about coming from a place of self-love, self-acceptance, and self-mastery. Self-mastery is having the capacity and space to have all of your parts at the table, to continue to evolve, to do things that challenge you, and also have the space for the parts that are trying to hold you in that safe known, that are trying to hold you to a version of yourself that you were. That is the journey of self-mastery, because I promise you that other version of it that's hard, that uses negative self-talk, it leads to self-sabotage. It leads to parts of yourself feeling neglected and pushed away. Think of those emotions and those parts as actual human beings. Think of them as kids, as kid versions of yourself. Would a kid feel good if it was neglected or pushed away or felt like it wasn't heard or appreciated? Well, the same goes for your parts. So I'm going to do a full episode on parts work and what that actually means to understand the various parts and develop a relationship with it. But it ties really into this. And part of me even didn't want to use the word discipline for this podcast because I feel like discipline can have a certain connotation, a certain energy to it. But discipline is the word. Discipline is simply doing what you say you're going to do, being consistent and saying you're going to do something and showing up and doing it. You know, there's another word that I like to actually bring into this is devotion, right? If we are devoted to something, then the discipline is something that naturally occurs through that. And that's what I feel on my journey. I am devoted to a future version of myself. I'm devoted to who I'm becoming. I'm devoted to my goals and aspirations. And that devotion is naturally creating this discipline and motivation. Do I still struggle with it? 100%. I don't always feel disciplined. I don't always feel motivated, inspired, or have the willpower, but I can continue to show up. I can continue to have mindfulness, and I can continue to have practices and structure my life in ways that doesn't require motivation all the time. Because it's not about being motivated all the time or disciplined or having the willpower all the time, because it's like a bank, right? Like it ebbs and flows. It comes in waves. So we can't rely on that. But if we have systems and practices and things that we incorporate in our life that allows us to show up and to build that motivation regardless of how we're feeling, then we become unstoppable. To give you an example of this, like for me, if I'm feeling particularly unmotivated in the morning, I put on YouTube videos. There's a channel called Motiversity, and it's just public speakers having really positive, loud, engaging, motivational speeches that just have these words that fire me up. And I do what I rent motivation. And this is a trick that I utilize when I don't feel the motivation. I try to rent the motivation of others. I put on, there's Spotify playlists, there's YouTube playlists. I'll put it on my Alexa while I'm making breakfast. I'll run to it. Whatever I have to do to draw upon to get myself in the space to show up, that's what this season of my life is requiring for me. And those are the tools and practices that I utilize. Again, sometimes I just give the parts space, those parts that, you know, maybe want to call it a little lazy or take it easy, give them the space. That's another tool and practice that I utilize. So again, I don't always feel motivated. I don't always feel disciplined. I don't always have the most willpower. But when I can continue to show up, and then it's a snowball. We prove to ourselves that we can show up regardless. We can drum up that motivation. We can embody these different practices. And then guess what? A few weeks later, when I wake up and I feel fatigued and my body's like, oh, we feel fatigued. Well, we already showed up with that fatigue and we know we're going to make it. And typically those days we feel great on the run or the bike or the swim. So it's like exposure therapy. Once we begin to take the actions regardless of how we feel, and then we realize that we didn't die and things worked out okay and we got stronger and better, then those thoughts have less power, because the thoughts will come up like, oh, we're tired today. Yes, so what? We know what that's like, and we're going to be okay, and we're going to get stronger from this. So that you just continue to put little, it's like a check mark, or it's like you're building this storage. David Goggins calls it the cookie jar. You're just storing in the cookie jar proof to yourself of who you can be and what you accomplish. And then you continue to build and build and build and build. And then those voices, they don't have the same weight, because the excuses, they never came to fruition. You work through them, you push through them. The same with fears. You have a fear of public speaking, you do it and it goes well. Well, then what's that fear have to say? You're showing it like, hey, like these are the things you're afraid of, and they weren't true. And the same goes for these feelings and these emotions. So it's important to be in tune with your intuition. It's important to listen to your body. And also, to achieve great things, you must do things despite how you feel. You must show up continually despite wanting to show up on certain days. And I think an important part behind that, because I talk about not wanting to show up, me not wanting to show up for a training session doesn't mean that I don't want to accomplish this Ironman. So the long-term goal, we still has to excite us still, because if you're doing things you don't want to do for a goal you don't want to do, well, then you're fighting an uphill battle that is going to be extremely challenging to uncover. And I'm talking about, like, if we're following the dreams of someone else. So if it's a goal we don't even really fully want, and then we're trying to take the uncomfortable action, that's a lot harder. I'm moving towards things that I truly in my heart want more than anything. I need. It's a necessity. I've made it where it's not I want to, I have to. I increased that the urgency within that. So let me be clear. We're not always going to want to take the action, but that unwanted action should always be towards the things that we're excited about. Because excitement's the number one emotion that's going to keep us driving forward, that's going to keep us engaged, that's going to keep us aligned with what we're truly meant to do in life. So taking action despite how we feel towards things that excite us the most, that is the magic. That's the magic right there. That's the secret key. Everyone's looking for the biohack and the tricks and all the shortcuts and the ways. It's consistent action. It's showing up for the things no matter what, but also the things that excite us, the things that we want to be moving towards. So audit yourself. What are you moving towards? What's the vision? Is this for you, or is it for your parents? Is it for you, or is it because what society thinks you should be doing? Because I followed that path for a long time. I couldn't maintain consistency. I couldn't maintain the discipline and motivation, and I would always revert back to old patterns and old ways. So take an audit. What are you moving towards in your, whether career, physical fitness, your finances, whatever it is in life? Where are you moving towards? Is it yours? Do you want it? Do you have the conviction? Is it a must? Or do you kind of want it? Because it needs to be a must. It's got to excite your soul, or excite you to some degree, because excitement is how our soul speaks to us about where we're meant to go in life. So is it exciting you? And then show up consistently over time, and you will achieve whatever you want to achieve, what you're meant to achieve, and you'll make the impact in the world you're meant to make. So this is the biggest thing. This is one of the biggest lessons I've been learning. I'm continuing to learn. And again, don't have guilt or shame around the voices that come up that try to keep you in the known safe, because it's okay. And I know in a world with so many people talking about being so hard and running thousands of miles and doing all this crazy stuff, it's okay to not feel like it. It's okay to have conflicting feelings, and it's okay to have the feelings. It's okay. And it's okay to work with them, to give them a space at the table and not always fight them. Because again, if you're fighting your emotions, you're fighting yourself. If you're fighting yourself, someone's got to lose. And this is how I balance having discipline in my life and showing up regardless, but also maintaining connection with my intuition, with my parts, and my body. This is pivotal for me now more than ever. And again, it goes in any area of life. If you're a business owner, if you want to start a company, if you're trying to get a promotion, if it's in your fitness and your nutrition, whatever it is, cultivate, continue to cultivate. And remember, discipline, we're not born with it or not. It's a practice. It's a character trait that is built through time. It's something that we can continue to build upon. And the more that you put those little reminders in that cookie jar, the more you're going to grow and grow and grow. And I promise you'll become unstoppable, because when you can trust and have that understanding of yourself, there's nothing on the external that can beat that. I hope you got some value from this. I'm definitely going to dive deeper into parts work in some coming episodes. And I'm really excited, because that is the number one thing that has created the biggest shift as I integrated and embodied that in my life. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you got some good stuff out of this one. This has been pivotal for me in understanding. And the more that I can embody this, the more the impossible becomes possible. And I know the same is true for you. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.